Welcome to this video tutorial of the Digital Visual Agenda. Let's see how it works in detail. Thus, each page of the agenda features two horizontal bars, one located at the top and the other at the bottom, where you will consistently find all the buttons necessary to access the various functions. I must point out that when the buttons appear yellow, they are active and can be clicked, whereas white buttons indicate they are inactive on that specific page. Now let's examine the buttons one at a time, and then we will explore the details of the different functions. The Home button allows you to always return to this initial page. Next, this is the button for creating a new agenda. Then there is an Edit button. This button, on the other hand, allows access to the list of created agendas. This bell allows you to mute the audio in case you know you have set timers, for example, in the agenda, but you need to ensure they do not make noise at that time. Additionally, we have a button for saving, a button that allows you to enter the settings, which we will discuss in detail later. Well, let's go to the lower bar, and the first button serves to lock the use of the functions. Then we have a button for printing, because the agenda can also be printed as well as viewed. And regarding the display, we have three different modes in which we can see our agenda. We can display it using just images, or with images and descriptions, or with just the description. With this button, we can view the user manual, the instructions, and we can also print them on paper. Finally, this cross is for exiting the application. Let's now look at how to create a visual agenda. We begin by clicking the Create button. A box opens here where you can enter the name of the agenda. Next, we find ourselves immediately on the Image Entry and Editing page. Here we can insert an image with its description and also a timer if needed. First, let's discuss the image. What can we do in this section? We can either take a photo directly from our device, because we know that for some, it is very important that the visual agenda reflects reality as much as possible to be more effective. We can also choose an image from our gallery. We can also use the images available in the app. We have approximately 150 images organized into 6 distinct categories. One category includes all types of actions. Let's say it contains about 70 of the most common actions. Next, there is a category that features around 10 different sports. Next, we have a category containing around 20 standard and common locations. And then in this category, we find about 10 means of transportation. And we have a category that contains about 30 games or various reinforcements. Lastly, we have a category that includes around 10 assorted and mixed images. Thus, we have added our first image. We assume we are creating an agenda for our trip. After choosing the image, we insert the description here. For example, I go out. Below you see, there is a number that represents the position of the image in the agenda view. It is an automatic number, it is sequential, but you can also choose to change it if needed, remembering to always save when you make changes. So, after inserting and saving the first image, 2 icons will appear at the top here. One icon is for adding a new image, and one to finish the agenda. Once we have finished inserting all our images, we will indeed complete the agenda. Now, let's take a look at how to display the agenda. These agendas can be shown in 3 distinct ways. Thus, we can visualize just the images, especially when children might not be verbal yet, as they are quite small. We can visualize the images along with a description, or we can show only the words. For instance, here we have an agenda shown with just images. The images scroll and you can see two more or less. But if the second image is distracting, you just need to click on the current activity image for it to enlarge and fill the entire screen. Then I can exit the enlargement by clicking the little cross below. So, as I was saying, here we are in the view with only images. Now instead, let's see the view with images and descriptions. Or now, let's see the one with just words. Now let's check how to add the timer. The timer can be configured on each individual image. So let's return to a data entry modification page. In the lower section, as you can see, we have the area dedicated to the timer. The timer can have three different types of sounds. There is the classic bell that rings at the end of the time elapsed. Or we can insert a track taken from our audio gallery, a track that we have already selected and chosen, or we can record a voice note. In this case, by clicking on the microphone, a window opens for recording. Here we record, stop, and listen again. And in the end, we save the recording. Well, at this point, we can enter the time we need to be used for the activity. So, we decide what type of display the timer should have. We have the option to choose a digital timer or a bar that decreases as time elapses. Once the timer is configured, we save it. Now, if we go back to the agenda view, we notice a start button has appeared. So the timer does not start automatically, but you need to press the start button to begin. This is to prevent causing anxiety by starting the timer before our child is perhaps ready to start. By pressing the start button, the digital timer will be displayed, or the bar, based on the display option we selected. Thus, when the countdown ends, we will go back to the image of the activity we were engaged in. When the child or teenager finishes each activity, to move on to the next activity, they must check the box down here. This box turns green. And immediately after, the entire image disappears, leaving space for the next activity. Now we will look at the list of agendas. So if we click on the list button, we can view all the agendas we have already entered. What we can do from here is change the position, the order of the agendas in the list if we want to highlight the ones we use the most. We can delete agendas we no longer need. Then if we select a specific agenda by clicking on it, the agenda gets highlighted. At this point, we can either click on Edit and enter the data modification page, and here we can change the images, descriptions, add a timer, or even include new steps and images in our routine, etc. Alternatively, we can visualize the agenda by selecting the mode we prefer. Now we will look at how to print the agendas since, as I said, the agendas can be printed. In other words, a PDF file will be generated and sent to a default email address in the Settings section. So first, let's go to the Settings page, where we will input our reference email address. Here in the settings, I can also choose the type of print I prefer. I can choose between vertical, if I want to get a vertical strip to hang on the wall, for example, or horizontal, depending on how I plan to use it. The settings obviously need to be set only once. We save them, and then to print an agenda, what I need to do is first visualize the agenda in the mode I choose, which means only images, images with descriptions, or just text. Then, once I am in the view, I click the print button from here. Thus, I will get an email with a PDF attachment that appears like this: 6 images in sequence in an A4 paper. And I will be able to print it out. To create the paper agenda, you can simply cut this sheet in two and you will get a vertical strip. Now let's see how the key lock function works. For example, I am viewing an agenda and I decide to lock the keys to prevent my child from accidentally touching it. So, what should I do? I simply click the button with the padlock and a window appears where I can enter a password. So I can click OK here without entering any password. Here, the system locks the keys using a blank password. This might be a good solution for locking. As you can see, now that some keys are locked, you can see that some have turned white, indicating they are no longer clickable. Now, if I want to remove the lock, I simply click the padlock again. A window for unlocking appears, and I can click OK without entering any password. But if I want to enter a more secure password that isn't blank, what should I do? I need to go into the settings and choose my personal password here and save it. In this case, if this field is filled out, the lock will only activate if I enter this password in the window we saw earlier. And similarly, it will only deactivate by entering this password. Sure, there is a method to restore the password if we happen to forget it, so I really hope this tutorial has been useful for you. If you have any other questions, you can write to the email provided below. Now you can have fun creating all the planners you need, and if you haven't downloaded the visual agenda yet, scan the QR code below for all the information. So have a great time working on your new schedules.